USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love, starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Encore une fois. This is the inside story of Paris 2024. 1 year on, one more time.
You're going to get a trip to the Palace. You'll be Sports Personality of the Year.
Calling it early.
Well, it looks like Germany, the world number one, is in the mixed team relay, are going to win this. Here comes Beth Potter. She's coming into silver, but it's going to be Germany. It's Laura Lindemann of Germany's going to win team, and Beth Potter and Taylor Knibb have got to have a photo finish, I think.
This is Encore and Fois, the inside Paris story from Anything But Footy. 1 year on, one more time. If you've been listening to the series, we are now at the start of week 2 of the Olympic Games as we look back on it day by day. So it's the 5th of August. It's a Monday. It's a Monday morning. I'm off to the Stade de France. More about that in a moment. And John, I think if you were one of those people that posted a lot on Facebook, you'd have probably put a picture up on that Monday morning of the Eiffel Tower with something along the lines of "This is my office" or "Not a bad view for a Monday morning," something like that.
I came off the subs bench. I was called up for the mixed triathlon commentary and reporting duties because Michael was off to the athletics to do commentary and reporting duties. Everyone was standing in substitute wise. So yes, I was on your famous bridge, which another new venue for me, the mixed triathlon. And I think the picture I took was of the sunrise because I was there that early, that the sun was just rising behind the bridge because so in effect we were in the shade watching the triathlon and the sun was behind us as it rose. So yeah, no, it was a great venue to be at. We were the defending champions, Team GB, looking of course to try and retain the title. Alex Yee had won that gold. Beth Potter had won that bronze in the individuals. We had Georgia Taylor-Brown, who was part of the gold medal winning performance from 3 years ago in Tokyo, and Sam Dickinson was added to the squad as well, of course, because Johnny Brownlee had been controversially, in some people's eyes, left out before the games and not selected for Team GB. So that was the squad. But unfortunately, it was never going to be gold. It never looked like going to be gold, even though, bizarrely, we were in the lead going into the fourth leg. So Alex Yee went first, Georgia Taylor-Brown and Sam Dickinson did a great job of maintaining that position and maintaining that lead. So when Beth Potter, in the last leg of the swim, bike, run, she was in the lead at that point, but Germany started to pull away through that, particularly the swim, and then Taylor Knibb of the USA hauled it right back in the cycling. Absolutely incredible performance. She was miles behind and really, really came back. And then again, you thought with Beth Potter, with her 10K experience and running experience from athletics, she'd have a chance of winning, but the Germans just pulled away. And in the end, it was literally shoulder to shoulder with the USA for Beth Potter on Michael's bridge. They were pushing and shoving and tried to get over the line, and it was called wrong. And actually, I was doing the commentary, and as you've heard, I said it was a photo finish. And then people decided that Team GB had won the silver. It never, as far as I was aware, it never came up on our systems that they had won the silver. But it was then I was then being told by Talk Sport at the other end of the line, well, the Team GB have won the silver, and I was like, well, I haven't had that confirmed, so I'm not going to say that at the moment. And in the end, it was wrong. They didn't get the silver. The Americans won the silver. Britain were given the bronze. But even the flag bearers got it wrong, Michael, because if you look at the flag positions of the three different flags, Germany was in the gold medal position, Britain was in the silver, and USA was in the bronze. But it didn't work out that way, and they actually gave them the medals correctly, even though the flag bearers got the flags in the wrong positions. It was an amazing morning. The Alexander III Bridge was at a great venue, particularly in the sunshine. You were there in the rain. But I think it was slightly disappointing, the result. And bless press attaché Gemma, who had been there for the hockey, and the hockey girls and the boys were both out by that point. And she used to work at triathlon, and Team GB has said, go to the mixed relay, go look after the triathlon guys and have a good day. And it was supposed to cheer her up that morning. Now, a bronze medal is a bronze medal, but I know that they were desperate to retain that title, and it didn't quite happen for them, unfortunately, on that Monday morning.
Well, a couple of things just to mention on that very briefly from my point of view. One, thank you for calling it Michael's Bridge. It's actually called the Pont Alexander III, but I'm well behind any campaign to get it renamed. If the authorities in Paris are listening. Two, I got it wrong in the build up to the games, because I'd been saying pretty much for 2 years out that I thought it was going to be a head-to-head ding-dong between France and Great Britain in the mixed team triathlon, and I'd highlighted that as one of my big moments of the games, but obviously it didn't work out for the French that day. And thirdly, possibly my favourite interview moment of the whole games. Let's listen to it.
Despite all the pressure we put on Liv, she really delivered, and that photo finish and that last leg was just, I'm so proud of her and this team, and I couldn't be happier right now.
Taylor Knibb, Taylor, come here. Did you know you'd won that silver when you crossed the line?
Oh no, everyone else thought I did, but because I saw Beth coming up, like I saw her in front of me. I don't know how
you were going back and forth.
Yeah, it was just kind of like fight to the line.
Come on, put some context on that. Taylor, come here.
Well, effectively, the USA team, which I didn't really expect to have to know too much about, but the fact that they'd crossed the line and the fact the whole medal issue, it was suddenly become apparent. It was a big story. Who was the silver, who was the bronze? Unfortunately, both the female competitors for the USA were called Taylor. Now, I knew one was called Taylor Knibb because I've been commentating her in the cycling, and so I just literally grabbed and yelled, "Taylor, come over!" And fortunately, they both came over, and I quickly worked out which one was the one who crossed the line, and was barging Beth Potter. But yeah, it was just one of those moments. It was like I've got to get an interview, and what I loved about the Americans, because you mentioned about the triathlon mix zone, it was a bit chaotic, but actually, again, to be fair, because of the medals, they came around a bit longer. But the Americans will stop and talk to anyone. And they don't know who I am. And as you say, I literally just said, "Taylor, come here."
And if you were to meet Taylor Knibb and Taylor Spivey in the street, would you know who was who now?
Yes, I think Taylor Knibb is the blonde one, slightly taller. They got the silver medal, and they were great talkers as well. Which the US, as you found, as we heard with the Simone Biles fans, they're just great. The Americans just give you great quotes.
Taylor, come here. Love it. It was just brilliant. So, not being too disparaging, but it was the B team at the mixed team triathlon, because the B team were at the athletics that morning. I'd been called off the subs bench to go from the triathlon, which I'd prepped for and was ready to do, to stand in at the athletics that morning. And obviously it was a morning of heats. Alistair Chalmers, who'd so dramatically qualified for the Olympic Games by Superman style, diving across the line after huge controversy over a false start as well at the British Championships. He had been selected by Team GB, so he was running that morning, and I was on the mic making my debut commentating on athletics at the Olympic Games.
It was amazing.
He crosses that final hurdle. Malik James King is going to qualify in first position. Alistair Chalmers is going to try and dive for the line. He might just get there, as he did at the trials. He collapses over the line in lane number 9. Alistair Chalmers in a photo there with Abu Aku of Germany, and we'll have to have a look at that one again. Alistair Chalmers is a man that brings drama wherever he goes. Drama at the British Championships with the full start, the running under protest, the diving across the line to get the time, eventually getting selected, and he's had to do it again here, and he has.
And I would just say about that, obviously having been at the British Championships, because I was not expecting to be commentating on athletics that morning. I think from a British point of view, I commentated on Jessie Knight and Alistair Chalmers. So, and I got the call out I had to go and do that athletics session at quite short notice, as you know. And so there wasn't a lot of time really to prep. But having been at the British Championships and having seen and spoken to Alistair and Jessie there, that was enough to take me through the 2 hours or whatever of commentary that I had to do. So
I think Jessie was in the repechage. So she was in the 400-meter hurdles repechage that morning, and we haven't really talked about that. It was a kind of new invention, wasn't it, for Paris? You didn't have what they call fastest losers. You had the chance to run again.
Yeah,
which she did, and she qualified. So it worked in her way.
Yeah, and I think other athletes sort of benefited from that, like George Mills. But I think ultimately, when it then comes down to being competitive in a final, it's always going to be a hindrance because you have run that extra race. But I think if you were to ask the athletes, given the choice, can you qualify for a final through a repechage, or do you go back to the village and pack your bags and go home? They would always take the second chance. And it's just one of the innovations, isn't it?
And of course, you were also there. It meant, therefore, for the moment where it was a big surprise in the athletics, where we hoped that the world indoor champion, Molly Caudry, would qualify for the final of the pole vault, but she didn't.
Yeah, and actually by that time I'd come down from the commentary position, and I was back in the interview position for that. I can't remember the reasons why, but the commentary, we had obviously gone somewhere else, probably to you at the triathlon. We were not taking the athletics at that point live. So I'd gone down because Holly Bradshaw, obviously an athlete that we know well and have spoken to many, many times over the years, another one of the 2012 alumni, if you like. She'd been in qualification and hadn't qualified. And I'd gone down to see her and speak to her. And it's actually in the middle of the interview with Holly. And as a broadcaster, you want interviews to be what we would call clean. So you want a nice, clean, you don't want to be talking over each other. You don't want to be interrupted. And we had what I would look back on as a messy interview with Holly, but also a really raw, emotional interview with Holly, because one, she was very upset and disappointed about her own circumstances and not qualifying. She was emotional because her father had passed away, and obviously she'd hoped to be competing in Paris, watched by her dad, which subsequently, of course, didn't happen. And then in the middle of the interview, she kind of paused and stopped because she wanted to watch Molly, who had one more jump to qualify for the final and didn't do it. And as we know, because we've spoken about this seam of British female pole vaulting from Kate Dennison to Holly Bradshaw to Molly Caudry, they're a really close-knit group. And it was like the third whammy in 4 minutes. So it actually made for not a clean interview. It made for a messy interview, but one that captured that raw emotion. And I mean, what a great sort of radio moment, actually, to have Holly Bradshaw there in the moment reacting to Molly Caudry not qualifying. Of course, we would have preferred both of them to have qualified and reached the final.
And Molly, of course, then had to come and speak to you as well. And she was in tears as well.
Yeah, it became a bit of a feature, didn't it? Do you remember on the Paris 2024 reporters WhatsApp group?
Like Michael's made someone cry again.
Who can we make cry today? You know, and I remember it was like, so we had Max Whitlock in, well, we didn't, but our colleagues had Max Whitlock in tears at time. We had Adam Peaty in tears at time. I mean, there were other athletes, certainly track and field athletes, that were in tears at different points during the interviews. But yeah, that morning I had both Holly and Molly crying on my shoulder, essentially, because they hadn't qualified for the final. And yeah, the cruel game the media play. I've sent another interview in with Holly and Molly. More tears. Great radio. And actually, these are human beings that have put the last 4 years of their life into this moment and actually haven't achieved what they were hoping.
And a big summer ahead for Molly Caudry to see if she can build on what she started last year. And obviously, the Olympics didn't happen for her. World Championships coming up this year. So an interesting one for Molly. We have the huge athletics evening to discuss in a moment. But very quickly, a couple of other headlines. I went back to the Stade Nautique, the Suleiman, for the last time. It was my last visit, and I came away with literally me. I came away with 2 medals. No, the kayak cross team were there for Paddle UK, and this is sitting down in the kayak. You start with a 2-meter ramp and crash down into the water. You've got to go down 6 down gates, 2 up gates, racing against 3 other people on the canoe slalom course. And at some point, you have to do a kayak roll, an Eskimo roll in the right moment at the right time. So you have to go right under the water and come back up again. And Kimberly Woods won her 2nd bronze in the women's kayak cross, and Jo Clark, who Michael had been there for probably slightly disappointing individual performance for Jo, but he won silver in the kayak cross. Again, one little mistake I think he probably made in that run, because he was world champion going into that. But a great silver for him 8 years on from becoming Olympic champion in Rio. And they were both celebrating. We were. But I must admit, I had a bit of a tearful farewell to the venue. I just sort of went round and said goodbye to it. I'd been there for more than a week, but it was time to head into Paris a bit more. And we said goodbye to the Stade Nautique, because we didn't have any, of course, sprint canoeists, which was continuing for the second week in the rowing venue. And the other big headline before we come to Michael and the athletics was Katie Marchant, Emma Finucane and Sophie Capewell, who broke the world record and won gold in the women's team sprint in the velodrome. It was the first night of action at the velodrome, first ever Great British gold in that event, and it certainly caught the imagination in the velodrome that opening night. But it really was Keely's night, wasn't it, Michael?
Yeah, well, it was quite the night, because first of all, before Keely, we had Noah Lyles' medal ceremony, and he collected his gold medal. And then, having described in the previous episode the absolute scrum and bum fight to try and get some audio, some interview clips from Noah Lyles, it was much more relaxed that night as he came up through the ramps past all the various interview positions. And we actually had quite a nice chat, and we talked with a little bit more time, and it certainly felt less like we were just shouting at each other over the melee. So we had a nice chat. Subsequently, I'm quite glad that I didn't catch COVID from him, because I think a few hours later he tested positive for COVID. So I managed to steer clear of COVID again. So yeah, it was nice to have like a good sort of chat with Noah, and that kind of kicked off the evening's coverage on Kickoff on TalkSport with Natalie and the guys in the studio in the commentary position, Daley Thompson and Tessa Sanderson. You asked me on a previous episode, by the way, about Daley. Did he ever finish 4th? And I said, well, I'm sure probably in some competition. I remembered from the documentary, finished 4th at the 88 Olympics in Seoul.
Okay.
With a really bad injury. So
yes,
I think if he hadn't been injured, he might have won a 3rd gold medal, which would be pretty outstanding. But yeah, I think obviously Kelly Holmes was with us that night, along with Daley and Tessa, and we had Kelly there. She was part of the TalkSport commentary team, but she was there first and foremost for her friend and her successor, Keely Hodgkinson, who I think we all thought was going to win the 800 meters, and never looked like losing the 800 meters, did she?
No, she didn't.
What a run. I think we were all hanging that medal around her neck. And then one of the things, obviously, that you and I had been working on for quite some time was when we knew that we had Kelly Holmes on the broadcast team, we said immediately that it would be great if Keely was to win the gold, to get Keely and Kelly together at the end of the race as soon as we could in that moment, because we knew that they had obviously spent quite a lot of time together in the build-up, had a good relationship. Kelly was really keen, I think, just to try and do as many different things as she could at the games, as we've already mentioned, in terms of commentary and punditry and presenting and reporting. So she was bang up for it. She was like, yeah, if Keely wins the gold, I'll go down and do the interview. So it actually started with me going, this is Michael trackside, blah, blah, blah. Keely Hodgkinson has won the gold, but you sometimes just need to know your time and place and step aside. So here's Olympic gold medalist Dame Kelly Holmes with Olympic gold medalist, the future Dame Keely Hodgkinson. And we were just able to record this lovely chat that the two of them had. And then brilliantly, Keely had a plastic crown. And so we did some photos of Kelly handing the crown to Keely. And then Kelly was like, I want some pictures with Keely. So I was taking some pictures. And then obviously they dragged me into the selfie, didn't they? So it's in my office at home, the picture of me, Kelly and Keely with the crown.
And as you say, a real handover from the double Olympic champion to, as you rightly say, I think Keely Hodgkinson has very much more to come. So quite the moment. And actually, Michael, I think that moment inspired you to then also look at, well, how are we going to do things differently for the athletics as it continued, and stories to come around Katarina Johnson-Thompson and also Daley Thompson and the London 2012 flame carrier as well. So I just think, because I just remember you sending us the WhatsApp messages and the pictures, and I think I was back in my hotel room by that point because I had an early start from the triathlon. And I was just like, this is huge. And the social media team have to grab this from TalkSport. And they did. And everybody got it. And then it was like, right, what can we do moving forward? Can we come up with other ways of doing stuff?
I had messages, loads of messages from people, journalists and photographers and picture desks saying, where's Kelly? Can we speak to Kelly? We want to speak to Kelly. And I had lots of picture desks and things going, can we get the photo? And I like the Sun and the Mirror were both after the picture. And so, it was just one of those moments that exploded a little bit. And it was also Mondo night as well. That's the other thing that night. It was just started with Noah Lyles, one of the biggest stars on the track, and finished with Mondo Duplantis, probably the biggest star in the field. And he just had, and Nigel Adley did it brilliantly on the TalkSport commentary. He had the last leap of the night, whole stadium to himself, broke the world record. And Nigel's line, a great moment of theatre live on TalkSport. And that is what Mondo Duplantis does. Great moments of theatre.
This is Encore on Fois, the inside Paris story from Anything But Footy. 1 year on, one more time will continue in the next episode.
Encore une fois, Paris 2024, one more time.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.